So you want to check out some of the less well-known castles, the hidden gems in Ireland.
Yeah.
Everyone's heard of Dublin Castle and Bunratty Castle, of course, but
Yeah.
uh, Ireland has so many more incredible castles, each
Yeah.
with its own unique story.
That's right. Yeah. And I think what's fascinating about these lesser known castles is that they kind of offer a more intimate perspective on Irish history
Oh, yeah.
and architecture. They might not have the grandeur of some of the really famous ones, but they give you a glimpse into the lives of people who lived and worked inside. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
within those walls.
Okay, well, let's start off with Roscommon Castle,
Okay.
now built in the 13th century.
Played with the Normans.
Right.
Yes.
You can really see that Norman influence in the design.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's a great example of how a castle's purpose can change over time.
Yeah.
Roscommon Castle saw a lot of action, for example, during the Cromwellian conquest in the 17th century. So you can imagine, centuries after it was built, it was still a place where fierce battles were fought.
Wow.
But today, it's a peaceful ruin in a public park.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how perceptions of these structures can evolve over time.
Yeah, from a battleground to a place for a leisurely stroll. Quite the transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of strategic locations, Doe Castle,
Yes.
situated right there in Sheephaven Bay,
Oh,
rising
cool.
up out of the water,
Beautiful.
built by the McSweeney clan in the 15th century.
Doe Castle is a fantastic example of Gaelic architecture. So unlike the sturdy square Norman keeps, Doe Castle has a more kind of irregular shape. It's designed to sort of blend in with the rocky landscape
Oh, wow.
and to make it harder to attack. And it's also really fascinating to think about the people who built it, the McSweeney clan. They were really powerful figures in Gaelic Ireland, and they held out against English rule for quite a while.
Yeah. Well, that visual of the castle coming out of the bay, that's definitely going on my must-see list.
Yeah.
Now, from a sea-bound fortress to one perched on a cliff,
Right.
Menard Castle
Yeah.
on the Dingle Peninsula offers these stunning views of Dingle Bay. But even though it was partially destroyed, right,
Yeah.
during Cromwell's conquest of Ireland,
Yeah.
and it was originally built by the Fitzgeralds,
Yes.
a family that played a huge role in Irish history.
Yeah, they were a powerful Anglo-Norman dynasty, and their castles, like Menard, are really scattered all over Ireland.
Right.
They even held the title of Earl of Desmond for centuries.
Mm.
Sadly, Menard Castle fell victim to Cromwell's campaign to subdue Ireland. A lot of Gaelic and Anglo-Norman strongholds were destroyed during that period.
Yeah.
And so what we see today are these sort of beautiful, picturesque ruins, but they also represent the really tumultuous history of Ireland,
Right.
the clashes between different cultures and powers.
And sometimes, those clashes take on a darker, more mysterious edge. And that brings us to Leap Castle,
Yes,
often called one of the most haunted castles in the world.
it is. It's got a very long and bloody history. Think vicious clan feuds, betrayals, even a dungeon known as the Bloody Chapel. And there are stories of a gruesome murder that was committed in that chapel. A priest who was stabbed by his own brother during a power struggle.
Oh, wow.
So you can see how these kinds of events would fuel tales of hauntings.
I can totally see why Leap Castle would have that reputation. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Carlow Castle,
Okay.
built in the 13th century.
Mm.
And it's known for these really unusual cylindrical towers.
Yes, those towers are a real distinctive feature of Norman military architecture.
Hmm?
They provided a wider field of view for the defenders,
Ah.
and they were more difficult to undermine than traditional square towers.
Yes.
Even though Carlow Castle is partially ruined today, those towers still stand as a testament to the Normans' very innovative approach to fortification.
Yeah.
It's really interesting when you think about how they adapted their building techniques to the challenges of conquering and holding on to territory in Ireland.
Right. It really shows how much thought went into those designs, and not just for defense, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now imagine a castle that's not a ruin at all, but a vibrant home. That's been in the same family for over 350 years.
Wow.
That's Tullinolly Castle,
Yes.
owned by the Pakenham family since the 17th century.
That's amazing.
It even has a llama paddock,
Really?
which I just find delightful.
That's great.
But Tullinolly Castle is a great example of how these historical structures can be woven into modern life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just a museum piece. It's a living, breathing estate with its own personality.
Yeah.
And the Pakenhams have done a great job of preserving its history while also adapting it to their own needs and tastes. And it's that blend of old and new that makes it so captivating,
Yeah.
For example, they incorporated the Gothic revival style,
Right.
which was popular in the 19th century, and that gives the castle this really romantic, whimsical touch.
It sounds like a perfect blend of history and modern life. And that's just a taste of what Ireland's hidden gem castles have to offer. So from a family home to a place where you can actually get a taste of that aristocratic life, let's head to Ballynahinch Castle,
Okay.
which is now a luxury hotel
Yeah.
situated on that rugged Connemara coastline.
Right.
But it also has this really interesting connection to social reform.
It does, yeah. Ballynahinch Castle was once owned by Richard Martin, who is known as Humanity Dick,
Humanity Dick, okay.
because of his tireless work in animal welfare. Wow.
He was actually one of the founders of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals,
Oh, wow.
which was a truly groundbreaking organization, back in the early 1800s.
So from advocating for animal rights to, five-star accommodations,
Yeah.
Ballynahinch Castle has definitely seen its purpose shift over time.
Definitely.
But some things never change, like a dramatic view. And for that, you've
Yeah.
got Castle Roche, perched high on a hilltop.
Yeah, Castle Roche. It dates back to the 13th century
Mhm.
and was built by Lady Rohesia de Verdun,
Hmm.
who was a very formidable woman.
Okay.
She inherited these vast estates and played a significant role in the political landscape of medieval Ireland.
Oh, wow.
And there's this legend surrounding the castle that that Lady Rohesia, wanting to protect its secrets, had the architect thrown from a window after it was completed.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a pretty chilling tale, and it just adds to the mystique of this already imposing structure.
A reminder that behind the beauty of these castles.
There are often, tales of ambition, power struggles,
Right.
even dark deeds.
Absolutely.
And speaking of ambition, let's jump ahead a few centuries to the 19th century, to Glenvie Castle, which stands in a beautiful national park.
Yes. Glenvie Castle is much more modern compared to some of the other castles we've been talking about.
Right.
But it still reflects, the grandeur and influence of its owner, George Adair.
Yeah.
He was a very wealthy landowner, but he also controversially evicted tenants to create his vast estate.
Wow.
So while the castle itself is beautiful, it also kind of carries that, the weight of that difficult history.
Yeah, a reminder that these castles are not just beautiful structures, but they're also, symbols of the social and political forces that shaped Ireland.
Exactly.
Now, for our last stop on this part of our exploration, let's go to Ardgillan Castle,
Okay.
which offers a very different perspective on castle life.
Yeah, Ardgillan Castle is actually more of a Georgian-style manor house than a traditional fortress. It was built in the 18th century, and it reflects a shift in architectural tastes.
Right.
A move away from these purely defensive structures.
Interesting.
So instead of thick walls and battlements, you have these elegant facades, beautiful gardens, and stunning views of the Irish Sea.
Wow.
It embodies a more refined vision
Yeah.
of what a castle could be.
And it even has its own ghost story, right?
It does, yes. The legend of the Lady of the Stairs, which adds a little touch of mystery
A little bit.
to this already charming estate.
So as you can see, you don't have to stick to, the well-trodden path when it comes to exploring castles in Ireland.
No, not at all.
There's so many hidden gems,
Absolutely.
each one offering a unique glimpse into Irish history,
Hmm.
architecture, folklore, and so much more.
Yeah, I mean, what we've talked about today is really just a starting point, but hopefully it sparked your curiosity to explore these fascinating sites for yourself.
If you're hungry for more curated explorations into fascinating topics, make sure to subscribe to the newsletter.
Yeah, you never know what you might discover next.
It's amazing to think about how these castles were once symbols of power
Yeah.
and defense,
Mm-hmm.
and now they've taken on completely different roles.
Right.
Some ruins, some are museums, some are hotels.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how our perception of them has evolved over time.
Totally, like Ballynahinch Castle.
Yeah.
It went from the aristocracy to social reform to now a luxury hotel.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating journey for a building.
It really is.
That's
It makes you
right.
wonder what will happen to the buildings that we consider important today.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Will they be preserved? Will they be reimagined, or will they just fade away?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Think about those cylindrical towers at Carlow Castle.
Yeah.
I mean, they were cutting-edge military technology
Back to time. Yeah.
back then, but now they're admired for their architecture.
Just goes to show you how much things can change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not even just about the physical structures.
Yeah, it's about the stories they hold,
It's about the people,
the people who lived and worked there,
the events.
the events that shaped their history. Yeah, each castle has its own unique narrative.
That's so true, waiting to be uncovered.
Yeah.
Like when you think about walking through Doe Castle,
Yeah.
it's not just about the architecture. It's like you're connecting.
Right, with the McSweeney's,
Yeah,
with
exactly.
their struggles, their triumphs.
And or when you're in the ruins of Maynard Castle,
Mhm.
it's not just stones. You're thinking about,
The impact of conflict,
yeah, the changing of power.
the changing tides of power, exactly.
It's a good reminder that history isn't just dates and battles, but it's about the human stories
Yes,
that happen in these places.
absolutely.
And those stories, like, resonate with us
Yeah, they do.
centuries later.
So next time you have a chance to visit a castle,
Yeah.
don't just take pictures.
Mhm.
Take some time to imagine the lives that were lived there. The secrets the walls hold, the echoes of the past
I love that.
that still linger.
Yeah. And if you're ready to discover more hidden gems, not just in Ireland, but all over the world,
Yeah,
subscribe to our newsletter.
absolutely.
You never know what you'll uncover next.